Best to go head up to the attic and dust off your old VCR, because today we're going to pop in some tapes and fire up the Action Max game thing on this week's eye-gouging episode of Barney B. Jones.
Stand by for target practice.
If you were a child during the mid-'80s, you are likely quite familiar with Worlds of Wonder. Founded by 5 ex-Atari executives, the company hit it big in 1985 with a talking cassette-playing teddy bear named Teddy Ruxpin. While this storytelling animatronic continued selling out well into 1986, Worlds of Wonder would strike again with another hot toy line, Laser Tag. Meanwhile, a Japanese game company that had found some success with a stubborn gorilla was trying to get the North American market back into home video games with their family computer, redesigned and redubbed the Nintendo Entertainment System. Seeing the potential for success after test marketing the console in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and San Francisco, Nintendo was ready to launch their NES nationally in the autumn of 1986. Realizing the challenge it would be to sell a new home video game console with hardly any name recognition, they turned to Worlds of Wonder for help distributing the hardware. While Worlds of Wonder was on the road demonstrating their wildly popular 1-2 punch of Teddy Ruxpin and Laser Tag, they'd extol the virtues of this newfangled entertainment system. It was mutually beneficial. Nintendo gained marketing clout by hanging out with the hottest toy company of the time, while Worlds of Wonder collected sizable commissions. Roles would be reversed by 1987. Teddy Ruxpin and Laser Tag sales were beginning to cool off, while the name Nintendo was quickly becoming synonymous with video games. Starting to see Worlds of Wonder as an expensive, unnecessary albatross around its neck, Nintendo would cancel its distribution partnership by October of that year. Luckily, Worlds of Wonder had readied their own entry into the video game market. Eschew in all advancements made over the past 10 years, the company decided that an old-fashioned shooting gallery, except with some cheap amateurish video footage playing superfluously behind the targets, was the winning formula for another hot-ticket item. And thus, Action Max was born. Assuming you were to categorize the Action Max as a game console, along with others available around the same time, the NES, the Sega Master System, the Atari 7800, it was a major step back. The system did not generate any of its own graphics and only a handful of sounds, and the interaction was strictly a one-way affair. Successful target hits would register some points on the 2-segment LED display and light up the external lamp, but the video being played off of the VHS tapes was unaffected. Now let's take a quick look at the commercial. Notice how it seems that this kid is having some effect on the on-screen destruction, even exclaiming "yeah!" as if he actually accomplished something more than scoring a single point. Manipulative editing is not exactly unique to this product, but I am beginning to question what percentage of Action Max consoles were sold under the consumer's mistaken belief that there was more interactivity with this video footage than actually possible. I must have fallen for it too, because I distinctly remember putting it on my 1987 Christmas list. Oh, young Dave, you chubby fool. So with my accusations of false advertising out of the way, let's see what you got as the proud new owner of the Action Max console. Obviously, you got the console itself, a sleek gray little box that accepts 4 C-sized batteries and has a whole host of oddly labeled inputs, knobs, and switches. This little red lamp here gets plugged into the back right of the unit and affixed to the lower right-hand corner of the TV screen. While the light serves as visual feedback, it's also there to synchronize the on-screen flashing targets with a stationary flashing circle below it, which ultimately determines whether the hit was on an enemy or a friend. You have an audio cable with stereo RCA connectors for the audio out jacks on the VCR, and a standard 3.5mm male connector that goes into the back left of the console. This enables the sound to be pumped through the console so that it could layer its own limited sound effects over the tape's audio. The fairly unimpressive light gun goes in the front right jack. Finally, they threw in a pair of those flimsy 80s-era headphones if you want to spare others nearby the indignity of having to hear the tacky background stock music lest they assume you're watching early 80s porn. Finally, we have the console's pack-in, Sonic Fury. Pop this tape in your VCR and you're ready to take off to the sky and pretend to shoot down fighter jets with a flimsy hand pistol. Well, not quite yet, as you'll have to sit through a long explanation of how to adjust your brightness and contrast settings, along with a target practice sequence that gives you time to fine-tune the distance knob and make sure everything's working. While I can see these being helpful, The need for all this calibration should have been a red flag during initial development that this product may not be a terribly good idea. Keep in mind, Nintendo's Duck Hunt, a 3-year-old game by this point, never asked you where you were sitting, and it worked out much better with actual interaction and immediate graphical feedback. Sorry, but it's really hard not to make this comparison.
Eyes peeled now. Target drone's coming up.
There's not much to say about this limited budget Top Gun ripoff. There's a flimsy plot based around a training mission that suddenly turns real with a cast of actors that deliver their dialogue competently.
Think you'll be flying as a bulldozer at the base garbage dump.
Okay, I'm out of here.
But just barely. Mostly it's just stock footage with physics-defying toy planes superimposed. This reminds me of the arcade game Mach 3, where computer graphics were layered over flying footage played off of a laserdisc. The main difference, of course, was that game was fairly fun, and this is just tiresome. There were actually a total of 5 games available for the Action Max system, with previews of the other initial 3 viewable and playable at the end of each tape. There was also The Rescue of Pop's Ghostly, a game where you had to help a family of friendly ghosts get rid of the evil apparitions wreaking havoc with their sanity. It was probably 10 times more fun for stoners to just sit and watch than sober people to actually play. Then there was Hydro Sub 2021. It was like Sonic Fury, but with submarines instead of planes. And it makes even less sense. In what reality would firing a gun at threats from the inside of a submarine, which is underwater, be in any way immersive? I understand you're supposed to pretend that it's the vessel itself firing, but come on guys, you gave us a toy gun. Why not work with it instead of against it? And that brings us to 38 Ambush Alley. Taking place at a shooting range, this was definitely the most fitting game for the Action Max. Since you're only shooting targets that would also be fairly stationary in real life, the lack of any sort of on-screen reaction to your hits is much less noticeable. This was the game that should have been the pack-in. While yes, the background footage is largely inconsequential, had Worlds of Wonder opted to release variations of shooting gallery type games that didn't depend on silly theatrics, bad special effects, and unrealistic intelligence insulting promises of over-the-top action and excitement, it probably still would have ultimately failed, but it would have been at least a legitimate effort. The 5th and final game was Blue Thunder, which utilizes footage from the 1983 motion picture of the same name. Again, same basic gameplay, just with helicopter footage. What is interesting is that this appears to have been the beginning of a second wave of releases, seeing as the calibration and target practice screens were revamped to make pre-play setup even more convoluted. There was a 6th game planned, entitled Fright Night, but the quick discontinuance of the Action Max console sealed its fate. I couldn't tell if it was based on the original motion picture or if it was an original title with the same name. The Action Max console was discontinued in 1988, around the same time Worlds of Wonder filed for bankruptcy, at which point the company was only selling off existing stock before closing its doors in 1990. The cheesy footage lives on thanks to the kind contributions of YouTube uploaders. It has even been emulated so you could sort of interact with it on your PC, though you could use the digitized footage with the original hardware as well if you want the authentic experience. Or just go play Duck Hunt. It's on the Wii U Virtual Console. My name is Dave and this was TV Games. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so I have something to brag about at social gatherings. See you next time.
Snap out of it, rookie. Snap out of it. Listen, you did pretty darn good out there today. You keep up the good work, someday you can be my partner. Now hit the showers.